Hi, I'm Ryan, and welcome to my coding bootcamp journey. In this series, I will share my experiences as I go through Flatiron School's web development program. If you know anyone that would enjoy this series, please send them to the link at the bottom of your screen. All right, so what is new this week? So I had completed my Sinatra project. I created a packing list app that I called PackList Pandemonium, and I recorded a video walkthrough, which the link to that I will put in the show notes. And this week we started the Ruby on Rails module, and at this point we've just covered RESTful routes. And just as a quick review, r- the what REST stands for is kind of escaping me, but essentially, what it means is provide a convention for developers to or a standardized URL structure. So, in the early days of the of web development, companies would create these crazy URL structures as far as how you find their blog, where their articles are at, and this, that, and the other thing. So, I mean, there'd be a situation if you went to XYZ Incorporated, and then moved on to Joe Bob's Dev Shop LLC, or an Amazon. All of them would most likely have like totally different structures as far as how they set up their web applications. And there'd be this whole this eh, overly extended onboarding process. So REST is essentially just, again, it sets up a predictable URL structure, so that regardless of which shop or company you go work for, that they're gonna have, you're not going to see some like a whole litany of or esoteric URL structures. So that's what I've been covering this week. And there's one phrase that I've seen a lot in the lessons and whatnot, is convention over configuration. And it Sinatra, if you wanted to render a view, you had to specify the directory path of the HTML file that you wanted to present. Whereas Ruby does a lot of stuff in the background, where you just write a plain old Ruby method. I mean, it's written in the same, using the same uh, syntax, and it automatically looks in like a directory for that specific view. So you're essentially just setting up the overall structure, and not having to tell the program exactly where everything is. So you don't have to specify a whole bunch. So yeah, that's what's been going on this week. And as for struggles, pretty minimally, actually. In one of the labs, I was having difficulty evaluating against a Boolean value, which, again, on its face, it doesn't sound that difficult, but it had been some time since I've actually dealt with Boolean values, because in order to I mean, you have to do some configuration in order for SQLite to utilize a Boolean value. So up until this point, it's all been like integers. I think I dealt with floating floating values, which are essen- essentially an integer with a decimal point. Like 3.14 is a floating value, and 3 is an integer. So, and then we've been valued again against strings and collections, and this is first time in a while that I've actually had to evaluate against a Boolean value. And it's just a matter of doing binding.pry, pull up the params to see what's being presented. And it is simply a matter of removing the quotes in the if statement, and it's done. so yeah, like, again, I just had the one thing. So anyway, and as far as victories, I passed my code review, and the with the code review, you had me go through the application and kind of explain a few things, and he liked some of my design choices, like when you're logged in as a user and create a new list or editing or going to delete. I mean, in any of those, you always have the option to go back to your home page. So yeah, that I felt that was important. I have a wrote a blog post on all of the everything, that all the challenges and I went through. So and that will be in the show notes as well. And one part in part of the code review is doing some refactoring, and didn't do any in my first project. I had to do some live debugging just to get the thing to work, because I decided after turning it in, I decided to turn it in, submit it as a Ruby gem, and that caused some issues. And he said that was more difficult than anything he would have had me try. And kind of a similar thing happened here. After running through, going through the whole process of using my application, and he went into the code. All right, let's see, the user controllers. Kind of scroll through, like, hmm, okay. All right, let's check the list controller. And then went through those, and he's like, okay, you've already implemented everything that I would have asked you to code in here. So build me a route in a view real quick. And so some underscore route, and the view was like some underscore view, and I literally just had an h1 tag say, hi, this is a test view. And he's like, all right, that'll just so long as have you do some kind of refactoring here. And now, again, this is my second project. So I had asked him if I was doing or not doing something that raised a yellow or a red flag with him, saying, hey, we might want to course correct here. And he mentioned that any flags that would be raised would be centered around concept comprehension, like not understanding why we're doing things the way we do, that kind of thing. And that's never that up to this point, that really hasn't been a challenge for me. All that all of the problems and struggles and frustrations I had so far is about implementation. Like, okay, I know like what I need to do here, and I know why I need to do it. How do I do that? And then figuring it out. And so yeah, I would definitely consider that that a victory, that the and he went in saying that coding, as far as being a software developer, actually writing the code is like 15% of the job. and the rest of it is figuring out, okay, what are, design choices, and debugging, and making sure we're, specific in our research, and because so yeah, that was definitely a nice conversation, as far as, okay, these are like the the main things that would, if you were if you were struggling with these things, then that would raise a few flags. But the troubleshooting part, debugging, and figuring out design choices, so I mean, so far that hasn't really been a big problem for me. And so yeah, that little conversation alone definitely picked up my confidence, that because the coding part you can search for. That's the stuff you can, go on DuckDuckGo, or Google, or Stack Overflow, and even YouTube tutorial videos. But you know developing that critical eye of finding out, why are we doing this, why is it done this way, instead of, oh, this is how you implement, blah, 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 blah. All right, let's move on. Because again, the implementation is only 15%, again, according to my cohort lead, and he's, worked in the field. That's only 15% of the job. So and again, it goes back to a phrase that I mentioned in earlier episodes, that we're not solving technical problems. We're solving human problems with technology. And so, the human part is, all right, let's figure out the design, are we going to use Ruby, are we going to use Python, what framework are we going to use, and what kind of conventions we're going to set up, and then, the problem solving and debugging aspect, because those are all language agnostic. I mean, regardless of whether you're using, like, even lower level language like C++, or even Rust, which that's I think that's pretty early days, or again, Python, Ruby, JavaScript, or what have you. Regardless of what language and technology you decide to implement, you're still going to have those conversations about the design, and you're still going to have to debug. So, I'm sure a lot of what I'll be having to do, there's not going to be a straightforward YouTube tutorial that you can just follow and say, all right, it's all good, you know. So yeah, that was my big victory this week. And what am I looking forward to? So yeah, I finished up all the routing, and so next week I'm gonna be getting into the CRUD actions, which CRUD is create, read, update, and delete, or destroy, or whichever. And so, that's working with active record, and doing database stuff, and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's all I got you in this episode. So I do thank you for watching. If you want to stay up to date, please like and subscribe, and feel free to check out the rest of this series. And if you do have any comments or questions, please post them below, and I'll see you in the next chapter.